Nate Saunders is joining me, and Nate, I was counting down for your rant because it was going to be yet another predictable finish of a Grand Prix weekend with Lewis Hamilton winning, Valtteri Bottas second, and Max Verstappen probably coming into third. And then everybody's tires just went absolutely mental. Bottas finishing outside the points. Max Verstappen, of course, still getting on that podium, and Lewis Hamilton crossing that finish line with three tires alone. So, I mean, where do you want to start? Let's just start with the two Mercedes drivers that suffered those two tire issues. And at least only one of them, Lewis Hamilton, was able to come out on the good side.
Yeah, I mean, completely wild finish. And you're right. I was kind of getting ready to write about a very dull race and kind of, just how bad things kind of were from a competitive standpoint. And we heard the drivers kind of talking about the state of their tires. Bottas at one point said the vibrations in his front left were getting quite bad. But we hear that quite a lot from the Mercedes drivers, Lewis especially, it's become kind of a meme almost online that he's always talking about his tires going. So when I heard that, I just thought, it's the standard stuff, but clearly they were struggling a lot. And when Bottas's went, the immediate thought of Mercedes was, well, the other car must be in a very similar situation. I think his went earlier. Lewis alluded to it post-race, but he was the one applying pressure on Lewis at the front. Lewis, leading the race, was able to manage the pace a bit better, so probably could look after the tyre a bit better. But yeah, a completely wild finish. And, if Red Bull hadn't pitted Verstappen, which, in hindsight is very easy to say, they probably would have caught him. We can talk about that in a second as well. But yeah, I mean, the image of Lewis crossing the line with three wheels was crazy. And at one point when he got that puncture, it looked really bad. When he was braking for the final chicane, I didn't actually think he was going to make it round. So yeah, wild finish, and a lot of questions now, obviously, about the next race next weekend at Silverstone, where they're bringing softer tires, which should be in a worse state than that by the end of a race, you would imagine.
Well, let's take a pin and talk about Max Verstappen, because I suppose that is the main question now. There's a lot of if, buts, and maybes. And, even though we don't like to cry over spilt milk, especially after hearing from Max after the race, he was quite happy with where he finished, and wasn't really about to blame that, he shouldn't have taken that pit stop then, because who's to know if his tires, would have gone had he not taken that pit stop. But, what do you think about it? Should he really have taken that pit stop then and just gone with a risk of, probably catching Lewis?
Yeah, it's very easy to say, isn't it, when you're sat here and you're watching the race, kind of,
and your tires are intact.
Sitting comfortably and you're watching it. And I think reacting to Bottas, what he was doing, they obviously knew that they had that meant that they could go into second position, pit, and still get that fastest lap, which is 1 point. But the aggressive thing to do there would have been to think, well, look, Lewis is, Mercedes at the very least are going to potentially think about pitting Lewis as well. That's what I thought Mercedes would do at that point, would be, right, we're going to bring Lewis in, and you've got to bring your tyres in. I mean, Lewis lost the championship in 2008 because McLaren didn't pit him for new tyres at the Chinese Grand Prix. So it's something that I think he's got experience with before. So, yeah, it'll be fascinating to hear from Christian Horner about the mindset and what they were thinking, right at the end there. But yeah, they're going to think of this as one that got away. But I think Verstappen put it quite well at the end. He said it was lucky, but it was also unlucky. They were lucky that happened to Bottas. They were unlucky of the timing that it happened to Hamilton having already pitted. So for a race where they looked comfortably third, to finish second was still pretty impressive for Red Bull. I think it would have been unbelievable if Verstappen had got past him at the end. Lewis said that his engineer was counting down the gap in his ear. So he was coming down the hangar straight and he was hearing 10 seconds, 9 seconds, 8 seconds, a bit like the start of the Thunderbirds. He was hearing this countdown in his ear, which must have been terrifying. But Lewis claimed that he was, completely calm, cool as a cucumber listening to that. But incredible drama. And hopefully F1 releases some of the audio from the radios, because those final couple of laps sound absolutely insane from inside the cockpit.
And I guess what we've, learned is that when it's your day, it is your day. And when Lady Luck shines on you, she shines on you. And poor Valtteri Bottas, I mean, I suppose at the beginning of this season, we were asking, could this be his chance, seeing when Lewis finished fourth, and could he give it a run, considering it could be a shorter season? But how much of a setback is this for him, at least in the Drivers' Championship, in terms of catching Lewis?
Yeah, it's absolutely gutting. I mean, we spoke a lot about how Bottas wasn't up to scratch at the last two races. This is not on him at all. This is a failure. And this, like you say, is horrific luck. And if you actually look at where those failures happened, Bottas was coming past the pit straight when his tyre went. So he had the whole lap to crawl around, and they were so far ahead. By the time he pitted, I think he was still second, or maybe, Verstappen was right behind him. That's how far ahead he was. But by the time they'd made the change, he came out and he was out of the points with 2 or 3 laps left, When Lewis had it, it was on the final lap, and he was able just to bring it home. You know, if that had been midway through the race, he would have had to have pitted as well. So unbelievably bad luck, and you could tell from Bottas's demeanor post-race that he knows that's a huge moment. 30 points behind Lewis in normal circumstances is crazy. You know, when we've got this run of races coming up now, which seem to really suit Mercedes, and they don't really seem to have challengers who might eat into some of Lewis's points as well. It's really difficult to see how this isn't going to end, as the last few seasons have ended, with Lewis kind of running away with the championship. So, yeah, absolutely gutting for Bottas, and it could be the race we look at as when Lewis won that 7th championship.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube, and for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app, and for premium content plus live streaming, make sure to subscribe to ESPN Player.